That morning, the wind carried the scent of autumn, dry leaves, a faint trace of wood smoke from distant farms, and something else, something heavier, weighted with memory. Daniel Carter, a 62-year-old veteran, walked along the path near his small countryside cabin. He had taken that walk every day for the past 3 years, ever since retiring, both from the army and from the city life he had tried, unsuccessfully, to build afterward. Here, where the trees stood tall like guardians and the silence was broken only by birdsong, Daniel sought the peace that had long escaped him. But that morning, peace was absent. He froze when he heard it, a deep, tearing sound, like a creature struggling against iron. His eyes narrowed. Years in war had sharpened his instincts. He knew the difference between natural forest sounds and something out of place. Following the noise, he pushed through brambles until he reached a small clearing. And then his breath caught. A massive horse, larger than any he had ever seen, was chained to a tree, the rusted links biting into its neck. Its coat, once a majestic gray, was tangled with mud. Its enormous dark eyes shone with pain and confusion. At its hooves lay a crumpled piece of paper, held down by a stone. Daniel's heart pounded. Horses always reminded him of childhood. His father had worked ranches, and Daniel himself had once ridden in parades with fellow veterans, flags waving from horseback. But this horse was different. Not just large, extraordinary, almost mythical, like a warhorse from another time. He bent down, picked up the paper, and smoothed it open. The note was simple, written in a trembling hand. "This horse is not mine. I found him wounded and abandoned. I cannot care for him. If you are reading this, please help him. He is special. Do not let him die here." Daniel stared at the words. For a moment, battlefield memories surged back. Comrades writing desperate letters home, the helplessness of being unable to save everyone. That same urgency filled him now. Without hesitation, he slipped the note into his pocket and stepped slowly toward the animal, speaking in a low, steady voice. The horse trembled, ears pinned back, nostrils flaring. Daniel's boots crunched softly on the leaves as he extended his hand. "Easy, boy," he murmured, his voice unsteady, not with fear, but recognition. He knew what it was to be abandoned, chained, silenced. He recognized that same look in the horse's eyes, the silent plea to be freed. It took nearly an hour to gain enough trust to get close. When at last he touched the chain, the horse did not rear. With effort, Daniel fetched an old wrench from his shed, returned, and worked until the rusted links gave way. The horse staggered forward, shaking his mane, breathing hard as if testing freedom for the first time in months. But freedom wasn't enough. The horse was weak, limping, ribs showing through his coat. Daniel placed a hand on its neck. "Don't worry. You're with me now." And that was the moment everything began to change. Weeks of healing. For weeks, Daniel dedicated himself to the horse. He built a makeshift shelter, borrowed hay from neighbors, and found a local vet who agreed to treat him for little more than a handshake and a promise. The vet shook his head in awe. "I've seen big breeds, but this," he muttered. "This horse is a Percheron, maybe mixed with something even larger. Rare. Whoever abandoned him didn't know what they had, or couldn't handle it." The horse's wounds slowly healed. But Daniel noticed something else. The more time he spent with the animal, the quieter his own nightmares became. Nights once filled with echoes of gunfire and screams were now softened by the steady sound of breathing outside his window, the comforting weight of a responsibility not tied to war, but to care. He named him Valor. Valor wasn't just a companion, he was a mirror. When Daniel brushed his coat, he remembered cleaning sand from uniforms. When he fed him, he recalled sharing scarce rations with young soldiers. And when Valor looked back at him with those deep, unwavering eyes, Daniel felt, for the first time, truly seen, scars and all. A test of courage. One crisp morning months later, Daniel decided to ride Valor. The horse, once weak and timid, now stood tall and powerful, muscles rippling beneath his gray coat. As Daniel mounted, he half expected resistance. Instead, Valor carried him with a strong, majestic stride down the country road. Neighbors turned their heads. Children pointed in awe. "That's the biggest horse I've ever seen," one shouted. For the first time in years, Daniel smiled. But the true test came unexpectedly. That winter, a storm battered the valley, flooding streams and trapping a family in their car on a back road. Daniel heard the emergency call crackling over his old radio. Rescuers couldn't get through, the water was too deep. Something inside him ignited, the same instinct that once carried him into battle. He looked at Valor, standing steady in the barn, and knew what to do. With a rope slung across his shoulder, Daniel mounted Valor and rode into the storm. The floodwaters surged dangerously, but Valor pushed on, hooves firm, his massive body cutting through the current like a ship. Reaching the stranded car, Daniel tied the rope and guided Valor back, inch by inch, until the vehicle was dragged to safety. The family wept, clinging to each other, and to him. The story spread quickly, soon landing in local newspapers, the veteran and his giant horse who had saved lives. But for Daniel, the true miracle wasn't in the headlines. It was within. For years, he had felt useless, discarded, haunted by battles long over. And yet here he was, alive, needed, capable of heroism once more, all because of a horse everyone else had given up on. A new purpose. In the months that followed, Daniel and Valor became inseparable. They visited schools, hospitals, and veteran centers, inspiring others with their story. Children who had never touched a horse found courage in Valor's gentleness. Fellow veterans burdened with silent wounds found hope in Daniel's words about healing, second chances, and how saving something broken can save you in return. Sometimes, on quiet nights, Daniel stood beside Valor under the stars, resting a hand against his strong, steady chest. He whispered, "You weren't abandoned for nothing. You were sent to me." Because the truth was clear, in saving Valor, Daniel had saved himself. Final message. Sometimes, the greatest miracles don't arrive in flashes of glory, but in quiet moments of compassion. A chained horse and a broken man found each other in a forgotten clearing. And together reminded the world that no one is too lost, too damaged, or too far gone to be saved. Kindness doesn't just change one life. It ripples outward, healing unseen wounds, inspiring strangers we may never meet. And if you ever come across something, or someone, abandoned with a desperate note, remember, what you choose to do next could change everything. Because love, in its purest form, always finds its way home.